In our Law and Justice lead, that rally is not solving Donald Trump's money problems. The former president has just 4 days left to post a massive bond and stop his New York assets from being seized by the New York government. And at the same time, his campaign funds are also lacking. CNN's Kristen Holmes examines now how Trump is trying to get out of this mess.
Mr. President!
With just 4 days to pay the at least $464 million bond, former President Donald Trump's panic mode does not appear to be easing up. Posting to Truth Social today that the amount ordered by the judge was too high for bonding companies, adding that, quote, putting up money before an appeal is very expensive. With New York Attorney General Letitia James already taking the first steps to seize Trump's assets if he's unable to post bond, Trump has been publicly defiant.
We're fighting it out with them. We have a lot of cash and we have a great company, but they want to take it away, or at least take the cash element away. Billions of dollars in value, billions of dollars in properties, but they'd like to take the cash away so I can't use it on the campaign.
As Trump seeks solutions, his campaign also facing a cash crunch, struggling to chip away at President Joe Biden's significant financial edge. Trump's campaign and joint fundraising committee raised a combined $20.3 million in February, ending the month with $41.9 million in the bank. While an increase from January, the numbers lag behind Biden's, whose political operation raised $53 million last month and ended February with $155 million cash on hand. Meanwhile, with Trump's legal fees still looming over him, his leadership PAC spending more on legal expenses than it took in last month. Biden not only outpacing Trump at the bank, but also on the campaign trail, making an appeal to key voting blocs.
I need you. I need you badly. I need the help. Kamala and I desperately need your help.
While former President Trump has largely stayed behind closed doors since clinching the Republican nomination, swapping rallies for donor meetings and the golf course. Trump has only visited one battleground state since Super Tuesday.
Hello, Georgia. I'm thrilled to be back.
And held a campaign event for his hand-picked Senate candidate in Ohio before the primary in that state. In the same stretch of time, Biden has visited every top battleground state but one.
You're going to be building the future here in Arizona, and Arizona is building the future.
And Jake, I am told by sources that Trump is going to be back on the campaign trail in the next 2 weeks, but that is not the focus for Donald Trump right now. He is still fixated on how he is going to post that bond. One option that we are told is off the table, Trump opposing anything concerning a path to filing for bankruptcy. Jake?
All right, Kristen Holmes, thanks so much. Our panel joins me now. I'm sure declaring bankruptcy would be a political liability, might actually be smart financially. But let's just ask the big question, where are all these wealthy donors, the ones that I think Mark Levin and others were calling for? Why is nobody helping?
Well, because they understand the financial liability here, and they understand that they might not see this money ever again. And look, here's the thing. Clearly, Donald Trump did wrong, and he was guilty in this fraud case. What got him in this situation was his behavior, and the judge made it quite clear, the way he showed a complete lack of remorse and the way he continued to behave in court. That is why he's looking at such a massive fine from the judge. And the judge making it clear, the fact he didn't show any contrition, that was a big part in him making this decision. That being said, a lot of Trump supporters and people who think Donald Trump is being unduly targeted look at this massive fine and say, it just shocks the conscience. I thought justice was supposed to be blind. We thought there was supposed to be equal distribution of justice. And many of his supporters are saying this just simply is not fair. And while this is going to be a huge financial hit for him, I think politically with his base as we move closer to the general election, his supporters are going to be more and more in his favor because they see this justice is not blind, especially if you run afoul of liberal DA and judges.
Paul Begala, New York Attorney General Letitia James has taken the initial step to begin the process of seizing Trump's assets. She can officially start the process in 4 days if Trump's unable to post this massive bond. But as trial lawyer Kevin O'Brien told Forbes, Letitia James is, quote, not going to take a stake and drive a sign through the front yard that says this building has been seized. It's a legal process. It's not like she's going to be selling these properties next week. But what options does Trump really have at this point?
Well, when he says he's ruling out bankruptcy, that means he's going to file for bankruptcy any minute now, right? No, because Trump lies like I breathe. I mean,
Right.
He just inhales oxygen and exhales lies. His companies, and he's never declared personal bankruptcy. He wouldn't have to here. His companies have declared bankruptcy at his orders 4 times before. So I wouldn't rule it out. But I think as a citizen, the thing that's most frightening is there seems to be no legal bar to him taking this money from hostile foreign powers, from maybe some billionaire in China, billionaire in Saudi Arabia, billionaire in Russia. This would compromise our national security if he were to be returned to the White House, and he's a 50-50 shot to return. So, I mean, I think that for all citizens is a thing that ought to really terrify us, is that Mr. Trump could very well be beholden to whoever puts up this bond.
So, Alex, first of all, welcome to The Lead. Good to have you here. Paul's not the first one to suggest this. Joy Behar also made a similar suggestion, expressing concern that some lender or donor is going to give Trump the money, and that will jeopardize national security. So yesterday, Trump's lawyer, Alina Habba, was asked about this on Fox. Take a listen.
Is there any effort on the part of your team to secure this money through another country, Saudi Arabia or Russia, as Joy Behar seems to think?
Well, there's rules and regulations that are public. I can't speak about strategy that require certain things, and we have to follow those rules. Like I said, this is manifest injustice. It is impossible. It's an impossibility. I believe they knew that.
I mean, that wasn't a no.
Yeah, it wasn't really an answer at all.
It wasn't an answer at all, right?
And I bet you if she was ready for the question, she may have answered differently, but how you're not ready for the question is really interesting. It wasn't just Joy Behar, it was Trump's niece, Mary Trump, also suggested this on X as well, about this possibility of, when
Well, Jared got $2 billion in investment funds from the Saudis. I mean, it's not wild.
Absolutely. I mean, the idea that some foreign person or even some domestic person would want to, front the cost of this in order to have leverage over the next president, I don't think is ridiculous. And I think the idea of foreign interference is just as serious as domestic interference. What happens if some billionaire also wants to have a favor once Trump is in the office?
Here's the thing. Look, there's a lot of wrongdoing on the part of Donald Trump here, but the fact that his attorney and his supporters are having to defend nonsense by Joy Behar and his niece.
Paul just made the same. You're accusing Paul.
I actually first heard from John Dean, who was the Nixon White House counsel. He knows about criminality. And he's the one who first raised this when I talked to him.
I think the campaign knows full well the consequences of that. There's no way I could see them actually doing that, because it would put him in such tremendous jeopardy and blackmail situation. I don't see them moving forward with that.
Let's change